of our favorite people here in the Tampa Bay area, the one and only Martin Gramatica. Martin, what's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good, Jay. How are you doing?
Oh, it's a victory Monday, brother. How good does it feel on a victory Monday for you when the Buccaneers win?
Always feels awesome, especially when we play as well as we played yesterday, because you can look at all facets of the game. They played really good football. It's nice to see after the bye week how fresh the team looked yesterday, and I'm excited, man. I'm excited for what's next, what's left of the season.
Yeah, and it's weird because Chase actually missed the kick yesterday, which was kind of crazy. He's been automatic for him to kind of yank one. You've kicked at MetLife or in the Meadowlands, right?
I have, but they said the new turf is really tacky, and when your foot kind of gets caught, and I remember talking to a couple guys that have played there, and it's not the best turf, for kicking, but Chase is automatic, and luckily he missed in a game that we didn't need him. So when we need him, he comes through all the time. So I'm not worried about him at all.
Martine, what was the most difficult road venue to kick at for you, whether it was the turf, the grass, or the wind, or the weather?
I think Chicago. Going to Chicago. By the time we played them early on in my career, because they were in our division, it was usually the end of the season, so there's really no turf left or no grass
Right.
left. And then obviously it's always windy. So Chicago, Green Bay, obviously those places where there's really no grass left in the winter, and then you got to deal with the wind and the cold. So those were tough spots to kick.
Martine, I'm looking at a guy like Todd Bowles who catches a lot of heat when the Buccaneers lose. But when they win, nobody gives the guy any kind of love, any kind of credit whatsoever. What is your assessment of the job that he's done with this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team? And, you know, how do I put this? Is he a guy like when you're a player's coach, when you're loved and respected by the veterans, do you think it's easier for them to kind of like put bad games and bad losing streaks behind them and kind of just go out there and play football?
Yeah, I think Todd Bowles' personality looks and feels similar. I don't know him that well. I've met him a few times. Super nice guy. A lot like Tony Dungy, where guys respect him and play for him. And I know with Tony Dungy, he was criticized a lot for not showing a lot of emotion on the sideline, but that was him, staying calm and collected. That way they can make those tough decisions. Because if sometimes the rah coaches work and sometimes they don't.
Right.
In this case. The head coach of any football team is going to get a ton of criticism when you lose and not much credit when you win. So that's I'm sure he's used to that. I'm sure his family's used to it. I think he's done a really good job of bringing the proper coordinators, to not only handle the defense, which we struggled early on, but I feel like we're getting better. And then staying healthy. That's huge. Staying healthy. I mean, the offense has put up some great numbers, even with Mike Evans and Godwin out. So you got to give credit to going the new coordinator because he's done a really good job there. So I feel like he's done a really good job. And as a coach, you don't have to be that rah, always screaming type of guy to be successful.
And I'm sure that you've seen, whether it's, your family watching or your kids watching, like people always want that because they can kind of see like, oh, that guy cares. But I don't know. I feel like sometimes those guys that are yelling and freaking out, I think that's a sign of panic most of the time, man. And I want my guy to be calm when things are going crazy. I don't need a guy to freak out and start dropping a lot of F-bombs to show me that he cares. I feel like that's kind of one of the most biggest misconceptions in sports. Do you agree with that?
No, I agree because to get to that level, to get to be an NFL coach, to get to the highest level, you have to care and you have to put a lot of work and effort into it. Everybody's personality is different, and you can't copy somebody's personality. You just got to be yourself. In this case, Todd Bowles is one of those guys that stays calm and collective, but that doesn't mean a rah crazy, goes nuts on the sideline type of coach. Can't be successful either because there's been some very animated energetic coaches that have been
Right.
successful as well. I just think you have to be yourself and the team will follow if they trust you. That's the number one thing that I feel that coaches need to have, the trust of their players. Todd Peterson's a great example for me when he lost the locker room in Philly and they bring him into Jacksonville thinking he's going to do the same or he's going to revive that
Mm-hmm.
franchise. Once you lose the locker room, I feel like that's when you can never be a head coach again because players aren't going to trust you. You see what's going on in Jacksonville. It's just not going well and not going well for him. And then Todd Bowles, nobody's ever lost trust in him. Nobody's ever second guessed it, if you can trust the guy. So, that's where I feel like we have an advantage. If you as long as you don't lose the locker room, it doesn't matter what type of coach you are as far as the personality. You just can't lose the locker room.
Yeah, 2 years in a row where they go on a losing streak in the middle of the season, and no signs of fragmentation whatsoever, no signs of people jumping off the ship, and I think that speaks volumes to the respect that the players have for a guy like Todd Bowles. We saw a missed kick at the end of the Washington Dallas game, crazy comeback. Austin, I think it's Austin Siebert missed the kick, man, and you could just see him wearing it on his face. Like, what's that feeling like when you miss a kick and you know not only did you guys lose the game, but you know that you're gonna have to face the cameras and you're gonna have to answer questions after that. It's one thing because I know coaches have to do it, quarterbacks have to do it, but when it comes down to one kick and everything, it's just all eyes on you. How do you deal with that? How do you answer those questions? And then how do you kind of dust yourself off, pick yourself up, and then just go back to work the next day?
Well, nobody feels worse than the kicker that misses that kick. And I've missed big kicks, and I never felt worse when I missed a big kick in Green Bay towards the end of the season that could have given us a good home field advantage. And I missed that kick. I don't want to leave my house because I let my whole teammates down. And you think about the fans, you think about the community, but at the end of the day, you let down the coach, Dungy, that trusted you, and your teammates that were there for you all year. So it's awful. So when you see the media pile on or people pile on, fans pile on, yes, it could be hurtful, but at the end of the day, they can't hurt you any more than you already hurt for letting your people down. And that's where, I feel for these kickers now that I have kids that kick. I don't want anybody to miss. I don't want to see anybody miss because I understand and I see what their families go through. Like I remember when I was playing, what my family went through. My wife, my brothers. I mean, that was at every game. On edge of his seat. So we're on the edge of our seats watching Nico kick now. So we understand what the family goes through. So I feel horrible. The one incident that I really hated to see was the 49ers kicker when I think it was Debo whatever his name is.
Debo Samuel, yeah.
Came out and went at him. I'm like, that is a guy that shouldn't be a leader on that team. I feel like that kicker should have just punched him in the mouth there because nobody feels worse than you. And for one of your teammates to do that, I'm glad he came back and but now obviously with us, I'm sad. I mean, I didn't want him to make that game winner.
Right. That was the holder that he actually got beef with, which was but we don't know. Like, he could have been defending the kicker, right? Like, and he just kind of took the brunt of it. So that's not really the holder was the guy that Debo was kind of beefing with. What is that relationship like? I think that's a good segue. Like, your relationship, whether it's personally, professionally, because I've been at training camp for 10 years now, and a lot of times in training camp, it's the specialist guys, man. It's the punter, it's the kicker, it's the long snapper, and the holder, right? And usually the punter is the holder. Take us through your relationship with the holder and how important it is to be familiar and have a good rapport with him.
Well, you have to have extreme trust, and you have to build a friendship. In my case, I had veteran punters, early on in my career that helped a lot. And obviously with the Super Bowl, it was Tom Tupa that had been, in the league for, I think it was like 12, 13 years before he came to Tampa. We created a great relationship to this day. We still talk all the time. My wife and I babysit his kid so he can go out on date night with his wife. So, and now Tommy, his oldest like 30, 35. So I'm feeling really old right now. But the point, you have that relationship. Ryan Benjamin, who snapped for us for the Super Bowl, played at USF. I knew him through my brothers at USF, got to know him, was friends with him, and then he came to Tampa. So that core has to be inseparable because they call it the operation. So you got to trust your long snapper, you got to trust your holder, and obviously the more you trust them, the more the better friendship you have with them. You know they're doing their best they can for you, and you don't even ever second guess it. The ball's going to be down.
All right, I'm going to ask you this: you have one kick that you got to make to win the Super Bowl. What stadium are you kicking it in? Who's the long snapper and who's your holder?
Well, I mean, that would have been no brainer to want to do it in Raymond James. That would be amazing. My holder obviously would be Tupa. Like I said, we still have a great relationship to this day, and we won the Super Bowl together. And then I got to say, Ryan Benjamin, he snapped in the Super Bowl for us, and a good friend that we still communicate as well. So not to say that I didn't have any other good holders and snappers. Mike Soul started the year and then it got injured. That's why Ryan Benjamin came in midway through the year, the Super Bowl year. Soul was a great guy as well. So, but those two guys, that's who I would have to say since we won the Super Bowl together.
Yeah, it's a perfect answer, man. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, especially if you win the Super Bowl with them.
That's
Let's
right.
talk some USF football. Nico out there, they threw him out there for a 58-yarder. Everybody got so it's kind of crazy in that game where, I mean, USF just ran over them right from the beginning of the game. But I don't know if you can feel this, Martin, because you're his dad. But when Nico goes out there for long kicks, there is like an elevation. There's an elevation. People get excited, man, because they know that he's the future of that position and that he's got an ability to make long kicks. Do you feel that? And what was your feeling when he went out there to try to make that 58-yarder?
Well, we're on the edge of our seats when he's kicking off, So anytime he steps on that field, we're glued to him. I'm glued to him in the kicking net to see how he's warming up. So that's why I want to apologize to anybody that wants to talk to us during the game or pregame or postgame, because we're so locked in what Nico's doing. Obviously, USF too. We want them to win, but I'm focusing on my son. I don't want to be rude. So A lot of people might think this guy is not the nicest guy, but it's just we're locked in on Nico. No, but we're thankful for the opportunity that he's getting because not a lot of true freshmen get a chance to play. And I told him to be patient. Eventually, he'll have his chance to do everything, and that's what we're hoping for. But at the end of the day, he's getting a chance. What he's being asked to do is not easy. Kind of go out there without much rhythm and just go attempt 50+ yarders. But no excuses. What I told him, I said, you got to stay focused and visualize the whole game as if you were kicking every ball. That way, when you get in, you already have mental reps, and that's what he's done a great job of doing. I love Coach Golish, what he's doing, and he's slowly getting him in there some pressure situations. It's hard to throw in a true freshman right away and expect them to be successful. You go from high school with no fans to full stadium when we play Miami, Alabama. So they slowly have put him in a little bit more pressure situations. So I think they're doing a great job of managing that, and I'm excited. The one thing that we're super proud of all of my kids, but their hard work. They're not just saying because my dad played, I have this last name, I'm going to make it. It's their work ethic that's gotten them where they are. It has nothing to do with who his uncle, because Santiago works with him a ton, with all his technical.
Mhm.
I say I work more on their mental side because I'm not the nicest coach. I get out there and then try to get in their heads. They're getting ready to get a little workout in today, and I'm going to get in his head. That's my thing, trying to make sure they're mentally tough, because as a kicker, you have to be mentally tough. Every kicker misses. You're not going to be perfect. So the thing where the great kickers show how great they are, how they rebound from a miss, and that's where I want to get them ready mentally for that, because eventually they miss. Every kicker misses. I want to make sure that they're ready for that, and I'm excited to watch them. And even though it is nerve-wracking and intense and the whole family just on edge watching them kick, but we're super proud of them for sure.
Yeah, you and I have been talking about, kind of how Golish has been taking it slow, which is you're a big fan of. And then there's other parents out there that are like, I want him to make every kick. I want him to kick every kick. And you've just been very steadfast and like, hey, just take his time. There's no reason to rush it. Get out there and make your kicks. And when you get your number called, and just, enjoy the process. And how crazy was it yesterday? Kansas City Chiefs wins that game in Carolina against the Panthers. And the guy that kicked the field goal was Spencer Schrader, who not long ago, before he went to Notre Dame, was a kicker at USF, which was a beautiful thing to see. So excited to see what his future holds with Nico, man. It's just, he's got a great attitude, and I watch him a lot too, man. So I can't wait to see what the future holds for him. Do you think it's more important to have a guy with great technique or great mental strength?
Mental strength, 100%, because you can overcome technique. You can get better with your technique. If you're mentally weak, it's hard to build that. It's hard to have that. And you see a lot of great kickers that don't make it because they can't handle the pressure of a game. They're really good in practice, they're really good in tryouts, or maybe have huge legs. But then, so I think the mental side of kicking, but you have to have the technique, you have to have the leg strength. I mean, there's no question you have to have all that. And the majority of the kickers these days, because of the training, the way they practice, the way they do specific training, they all have kicking coaches early on in their career, so their technique is flawless at times. But now the ones that make it and stay in the league longer are the ones that are mentally strong, because it's a lonely and tough position when you miss, and that's the thing. You've got to be mentally ready for that because missing a game winner, you not, it's not like basketball or baseball that you're going to play in 2 days or in the
Yeah.
next day. You've got to think about that for a week and sometimes longer. And especially if it's later in the year where you might be out of the playoffs, now you got to think a whole off season about it. So it's not easy. It's not easy, but I feel like the mental side is more important, obviously, than the physical side. If you don't have the mental side, there's no chance you're going to make it.
Yeah, and you just got to make sure that you can come up with fumbles like Nico did in Tuscaloosa against Alabama, which was I was the only person that saw that in the press box. It was a really, really good time and not something that I will soon forget. The one and only Martin Gramatica, the Super Bowl champ. Martin, always great catching up with you, my friend. You have a great rest of your week. Happy Thanksgiving to you and the entire family, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and again, enjoy it with your family as well. Take care.
Thank you,
Thanks for
buddy.
having me.